Down on the southern tip of Florida lies what is without a doubt America's most iconic wetlands, the Everglades. In this massive swamp you'll see gators, crocs, water moccasins and the ultimate apex predator, Florida man. But that's not all. There also happens to be a whole host of invasive animals that have moved in, creating an incredibly weird mix of species. Hey everyone, welcome to Zoology with Will. Today we're going to look at some of these species and try to figure out what the heck is going on in Florida. Let's dive in.
Oh my gosh.
That is a really, really big python. That's a really, really, really big python. Oh.
He ate the head already.
Yeah, yeah. This is so badass. Wow. Good job.
That was an alligator pulling the remains of a python. Those pythons are heavily invasive, and I often see footage like this and you kind of get your hopes up that the alligators are going to control the pythons and help save the ecosystem. But realistically, we've got to say, the gators have been there the whole time. If they were going to solve the problem on their own, they would have already.
I'm gonna back that a little bit.
I'd have been out of there way sooner. The alligator clearly wasn't aggressive, and I guess that's just like a daily thing you get in southern Florida. People probably get used to it, but the noise at the end tells you he clearly doesn't want company.
Hey guys, I'm in the Florida Everglades and I just startled a swamp puppy. Before I enter the water, I like to do the rock test. Yep, see, there's a crocodile waiting for me right there. He thought he was gonna make a meal of me, but he doesn't know who he's dealing with. But look what we got here, yoink. It's an Everglades rat snake and it's giving me little kisses. Love you, little guy. Finally, a python. Yoink. You're not the 20-footer, but you'll do. It's important to take these invasive snakes out of the environment. Yoink. This is a salt marsh snake and he's native. Absolutely love these guys. Look at this big old chungus. It's a green water snake and he is huge. Boop. Not quick enough, buddy. How can you not love a face like that? So cute. Alright, why don't you tell me where that 20-footer is? Ooh, a gentle yoink. It's a baby cottontail rabbit. I hope you can survive out here, little guy. You made it this far. This is a cottonmouth. Can you guess why they call them that? There's a little bit of bugs out here, but I don't think it's too bad.
I think the bunny is going to need some luck on its side.
Guys, check this out. I don't know what type of snake this is, but there's a snake just hanging out right here. Oh, got him. Let me see. Oh, it looks like a brown water snake, guys. Oh, check that out. Beautiful snake. Let's release him.
Always best to identify a snake before you grab it, especially somewhere like Florida.
The Everglades was once described as the Garden of Eden without the serpent. Well, in today's reality, that's unfortunately no longer the case. Invasive pythons have taken over this ecosystem along with a host of other non-native species. This is a growing problem because these introduced animals outcompete native wildlife for resources they depend on, which disrupts the balance of life. Green iguanas, monk parakeets, Mayan cichlids, and of course Burmese pythons are just some of the harmful species threatening native life here.
The size of the ecological catastrophe happening in Florida is kind of hard to imagine, and part of the reason for this is that we often get the sensational side, so we just get the pythons on TV, whereas actually in real life in Florida they're dealing with invasive fish species, mollusk species, there's eels, there's snails, there's invasive plants, there's plants that affect the canopy, however plants grow. There's just such a wide range of species that have gone wild and aren't supposed to be there, that it is a massive problem, one that might potentially never be solved.
People don't realize how many invasive lizards are in Florida. This is a panther chameleon. Look how gorgeous he is. And they're quite valuable. This is a veiled chameleon. Very large male. This is another veiled chameleon. Check out those pretty colors. This is a baby. He's about the size of a quarter. He's going to grow really fast though. Here we have a hybrid green iguana. Check out how red he is. This guy's so cool. And right here we have a baby hybrid green iguana. Normally don't have the orange under their throat like that. He's going to be really cool when he gets bigger. I'm probably going to keep this guy. This is a baby Mexican spiny-tailed iguana. This is a brown basilisk. This is a male. Check out his eye. These are the baby basilisks. They also call them Jesus lizards.
The worst part is that the chameleons, I just love seeing chameleons in the wild, and it's just so hard to dislike them. You know, even if they are invasive, I really hope that more people are going to catch them. And funnily enough, that's actually something we're going to look at in a minute.
Okay, if you're in Florida, you must have seen one of these already. The other day, I was home in South Florida, and I see this giant lizard out my window. So I started filming it, like, what in the world? And then all of a sudden, it just got up on its 2 feet and started running like Usain Bolt across the patio. What in the world? All right, not only am I in awe that there's something in my patio running like this, but holy crap, look at that form and that long stride. Sign him up for the Olympics, because this lizard is getting there. By the way, the name is called the Jesus Christ lizard. Yep, because it runs on 2 feet across water. Say what? Yeah, Google it. I learned something new.
Imagine that if you weren't into reptiles at all, you'd never heard of a basilisk lizard, and one day you just see a lizard get up on its hind legs and run across the swimming pool. That would be a shocking moment and a learning moment.
Okay. Got a big female Florida softshell. This one was in a trap with one of our snappers and was almost equal size with an alligator snapping turtle. These guys are our largest softshells, and as you can see, they get massive. And this isn't even a really big one, but this is an impressive, probably 25-pound Florida softshell. They got really sharp jaws, and they're unique among turtles because they actually have lips covering their jaws, which is really, really cool. It's like having a sheath over a knife.
Are those leeches or just folds in the skin?
That was making me really nervous when he was putting it, you know, what looked like from the camera's perspective very close to his face. Softshell turtles have really long necks, and they've got an incredible bite. Like snapping turtles have this kind of crushing bite where they get you and they bruise you and they cut you a bit. But softies are kind of better at slicing. I mean, they can slice a fish in two pretty easy.
What's up, guys? Long night out here in South Florida. So far, we got 25 plus basilisks, about 250 crested anoles, 500 brown anoles, 75 plus veiled chameleons, 30 plus Cuban anoles. There's some big ones in there. And then we got 20 tokays, some more nidanoles, a couple basilisks, some red-headed gammas. It's been a long night, about 4 o'clock in the morning. We're whooped, you know?
Absolutely whooped. But yeah, these non-native and invasive species will no longer be in the wild.
All about conservation, removing them, making the way, and paving the way for the natives to come back and flourish.
And we gotta, pay for ourselves to be out here. So yes, we're gonna sell them.
Sure.
Just to explain what those guys are doing, I already knew about what they were doing. I've seen their account before. They're taking the invasive reptile species, which would make good pets, for weirdos like me that like that kind of thing. And they're shipping them out to states where they don't have the potential to become invasive. So some of those brown anoles might end up in Oregon, for example. And that is, the closest to a good solution that there is. There's no good solution to the problem in Florida. I mean, the people of Florida have a right to protect their native land and ecosystem and the great outdoors in general, really, because it's part of their heritage. Likewise, the animals, do they have a right to live? Well, maybe they do. It's always a waste to kill animals and not eat them or have something else eat them. And it's not nice, having to cull all those animals, which are so beautiful and unique and amazing in different ways. So yeah, selling them as pets, at least that's attempting to do something good. That was a water moccasin, of course, coming up to see what was happening. Water moccasins, they are kind of variable in temperament. Sometimes they'll just, get away from you, but often what you find is that they float on top of the water and that they will, if they're on land, they'll stand their ground. They won't try and get away from you. They're not frightened. Whereas water snakes, for example, they often dive and try and get away from you. And that's the best way to tell them apart, just in that initial reaction.
So cool.
crocodile. What? Look at this one.
Crocodiles make me much more nervous than alligators. They're a different animal altogether. They are much more touchy. Those, of course, were American crocodiles. That's a tropical species. I guess subtropical in some areas, but mainly a tropical species. And the tip of Florida is like the northern edge of their distribution. So they are a peripheral species in Florida, but they are a native species and they should be there. So I think that they also have federal and state level protection. Wow, that croc had found some freshwater runoff there. It was probably letting it, trickle in and drinking it, and it was probably enjoying the sensation as well. What I noticed, though, was that part of its lower jaw was missing, and I know that looks like a bad injury. I mean, for a human, that would be a catastrophic injury, but for a croc, that is nowhere near enough to stop them. I mean, that croc, even in that condition, will probably live just as long as its, family members.
Walking around trails at the Florida Everglades, and we see this. Should we run?
Yes. Yes, run away. If I said, alligators make me a little bit nervous, crocodiles make me more nervous, I'd say the Florida panther makes me much more nervous. They're one of those unpredictable animals that is generally very, very shy, and you will practically never see them. They'll try and keep away from you, but catch one on a bad day, and they're every bit as dangerous as a bear or another large carnivore.
This is a male green anole. He's not too green right now, but this is one of the native lizards we have here in Florida. And this is a brown anole, a male. You can see the difference between these two. These brown anoles tend to be a bit bulkier and a little bit more aggressive than the greens, due to the fact that these guys tend to breed a little bit quicker and are bigger and bulkier. The green anoles, which are native, have had a very hard time competing with the brown anoles. Brown anoles tend to live lower in the trees and bushes. Green anoles, well, they can live higher up in the trees. The brown anoles seem to have outcompeted the green anoles, but the green anoles in reality have moved higher up into the taller parts of trees and bushes, giving them a separate niche. Green anoles don't do well in urban environments compared to brown anoles. I have a bunch of green anoles in my backyard because I've released them here because I like the green anoles. Look how pretty that is. But the brown anoles do really well in urban environments. So, where do you spend most of your time? Around your house. I barely see these guys anymore. And it's not because these guys are endangered or even close to extinction. There's still a ton of them. They just aren't around your homes. And if they are, they're probably higher up in the trees and are a little bit harder to spot than these guys, which you'll see out in the open everywhere. So as new species come in and contend with the natives, sometimes the old species just have to adapt and find a way to make it.
There's a couple of things we really need to understand with the anole lizards, and to help us understand their invasiveness, as it were. Because there's the brown anole, and there's the night anole, and there's a few other species of anoles. So anoles have radiated and speciated and occupied different habitats through all these subtropical and tropical areas of, well, pretty much all the subtropical areas of North and South America and the Caribbean. I think the epicenter of their diversity is the Caribbean. And part of their evolutionary pathway to this radiation has always been island hopping. That is something they're very good at. By island hopping, I mean they arrive at a new area, usually an island, of course, and they quickly adapt, they quickly spread, and they quickly colonize that new island or new area. So when they arrived in Florida, particularly the brown anoles, it was easy. It came naturally to them. That's what they do. And this is why species like anoles are a problem. The second issue we have, particularly with brown anoles, is that they come from Cuba. Cuba has a decent diversity of Anole species. It has, I think, upwards of 60 species. So not only is it a species that's, got island hopping in its lineage, it's also a species that's used to competing with other species of Anoles. It's used to fighting, it's used to being aggressive, and it's not going to back down from any confrontation with similarly sized lizards. So it was always going to outcompete the green Anole.
Hey guys, I'm in the Florida Everglades and I'm waving hello to a swamp puppy. Check out this smoke show. This guy's a monster. A very angry veiled chameleon, that's for sure. I named him Chad. You're coming home with me, Chad, and you're going to tell me where that 20-foot python is. I snuck up behind this 3-legged swamp puppy. He doesn't even know I'm here. Check out this cluster of Brooks king snakes, one of my favorite native snakes in the Florida Everglades. And you can't forget a handful of tokay geckos. Ooh, a brown water snake. Yoink. Tropical orb weaver. Boop. Look at this brown water snake posturing up to pretend he's venomous. How can you not love a face like that? Finally, a python. Yoink. Better tell me where that 20-footer is right now. We're still looking. You really gotta watch out for cars, Mr. Whippoorwill. Look at this dude. Ooh. Yoink. You can't escape the yoink. This is a gorgeous baby mud snake. Isn't he so cute? The bugs aren't too bad in the Everglades tonight. I spotted a spicy boy, a cottonmouth.
Mud snakes are a native species, but they are really, really interesting. They're just as weird as any of the invasives. So they specialize in eel-like amphibians, basically sirens and amphiumas. And they also have a weird pointy bit on the end of their tail, and people always tell me different reasons for why they have this. Some people say, oh, it's to poke you with to try and scare you when you catch them, and other people say it's to poke the amphibians with to try and get a good purchase on them, as it's eating them, basically. So I'd love to know what people think about that, and if anyone's had any experience with them themselves.
Guys, check this out. I went to the back of my pickup truck to load up some sand so we could transport it on the other side of the property. And guess what I find? A Cuban night anole just chilling in the back of my truck. These guys are common here in South Florida. They're not from here. They're actually from Cuba. But I love seeing these guys. They're absolutely gorgeous lizard. As you can see, they're generally kind of feisty when you try to pick them up, but this guy's actually pretty nice. It's a little cold. It just rained here, so he's probably a little slow, but gorgeous lizard. I love seeing these guys all around the property.
That is one of my favourite species as well. Something you'll notice about Cuban night anoles is that their eyes look sunken, and they've got this kind of zombie look to their eyes. And in most lizards, if the eyes look sunken, it's a sign of poor health. It means they're emaciated, basically, and they're probably going to die soon. But with Cuban night anoles, it's literally just how they look. So if you ever have one of these as a pet, I know that's a bit off topic, but if you have one of these as a pet and you're wondering about its health, you look at the meat on the limbs and the belly and the tail as an indicator of if they're carrying enough weight.
So this is actually 100% true. Green anacondas are starting to invade the Everglades as well. Now, obviously, it talks about it a lot, but there are Burmese pythons in the Everglades. There could be anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million of them in the Everglades, and they're just constantly reproducing, and they're causing a lot of havoc. We have known that there have been anacondas spotted in the Everglades ever since the 2000s. But now sightings of them are increasing, and scientists are trying to figure out what their impact is going to be, and if it's going to be as big as the Burmese pythons has. And these snakes can get a lot heavier and a lot longer than regular Burmese pythons. Males usually grow up to 15 feet long, but females can grow up to 24 feet long. And the max weight of a green anaconda has been 440 pounds. Obviously, we know that Burmese pythons have had a negative impact on the ecosystem as well as native wildlife. But green anacondas can take down bigger animals than the Burmese python can. And one of the main concerns is about the deer populations where these anacondas are starting to pop up. They don't know how many anacondas there are in the Everglades. There's definitely less than there are Burmese python, but this could turn into a problem as big as the Burmese python in just a matter of a few years.
People have been telling me green anacondas are invasive in the Everglades for a long time now. I don't know how strong the evidence is, but they are different to pythons in a couple of ways, which are worth talking about. First of all, they have live young. That's an advantage, because they don't need to find a place to incubate the eggs, and they don't need to sort of guard them and help incubate them like the pythons do. So skipping a step like that in reproduction is always an advantage. But the other strange point is that in captivity, anacondas often don't get as big or bigger than reticulated pythons or Burmese pythons. And whether that shows kind of a lack of a sort of a lesser adaptability, I really couldn't tell you. For some reason, I've just got this hunch that they're never going to become as invasive as the pythons. Good to see one of the weirder native bird species in action.
The python must now attempt to consume her sizable quarry. A juvenile alligator warming itself in the afternoon sun. The python approaches with caution. Even small gators can pack a powerful punch. Much safer to take it from behind. The python's muscular coils neutralize the gator's formidable bite. Before beginning the big squeeze. Struggle as it might, the juvenile gator is not in the same weight class. And is quickly choked out. The python must now attempt to consume her sizable quarry. And for this, she's supremely adapted. Recent research reveals that when feeding, pythons can speed up their metabolism by increasing blood flow to vital organs like the heart, liver, and kidneys to boost digestion by up to 40 times its regular rate. Remarkably, the snake will fully digest the alligator within 7 to 10 days. Scales, bones, teeth, and all. While this means she'll quickly return to fighting form, it does come at a cost, using over a third of the energy gained from the meal.
The matchup between a Burmese python and an alligator is mainly going to be determined by weight. A heavier snake will be able to tackle an alligator. Alligators are very stocky, they've got this kind of stiff neck, they've got osteoderms, they're built like a tank and they're just ridiculously strong. But snakes are ridiculously strong for different reasons. Despite not looking quite as robust, they have a good bite, a good grip, because they've got recurved fangs, and they can latch on very easily. Biting always gives a good anchor point, and because of the way they constrict, because their ribs are all so close together, the muscles are close to full contraction at all times.
We are in the Florida Everglades tonight, and I really want to see some reptiles, so let's go find some. Our first snake of the night is a baby venomous cottonmouth. If you look closely, you'll notice a bright yellow tail on this one. That's what babies have to attract prey. It's called a caudal lure. Here's a second cottonmouth, like not even 20 feet away. I wonder if we'll end up seeing more of these things tonight. We just cruised up on a Florida banded water snake, one of the more common aquatic species you'll find in the Everglades. There's a big southern leopard frog, but we actually stopped the car for this good-sized cottonmouth. Gave us a bit of a jump scare right there, and then kind of awkwardly made his exit. God, I'm getting sick and tired of these things. Fourth cottonmouth of the night. Just kidding. I always like cottonmouths. This one's a lot more chill, though. Baby Florida green water snake. That's a new species for tonight. I don't mean to brag, but I'm getting really good at finding the most common snakes you could possibly find in the Everglades. That is the thickest striped swamp snake I've ever seen. She's definitely got babies.
That's usually how it goes when you go looking for reptiles. You find the most common things, and, you know, one trip out of 20 you might find something rare. Cottonmouths are definitely doing well in the Everglades still. The alligators are clearly doing their part, working overtime. to control the invasive species. That one was eating one of the hybrid iguanas, I think. And often I see this kind of video framed as like a good news story. I mean, I've literally even seen videos like that in the news, but actually it's not good news. It's never good news for any native animal to have an interaction with an invasive animal. It might eat the invasive animal and therefore help control its numbers, but at the same time it might contract various different parasites, bacteria or viruses, which might be novel to the native species. So the alligators we see in the news sometimes killing a Burmese python or an iguana might be doing their best and helping the situation, you know, intentionally or not, but they could also be contracting parasites and diseases that they have no or little immunity to. A lot of people make up big snake stories, but that wasn't a big snake story. That was just a big snake. There's no doubt about it.
The biggest Cuban tree frog I've ever seen showed up on our porch. Cuban tree frogs are an invasive species and need to be eradicated.
He's so stinking cute. He's so big. The size of my hand. Would you like to live with us? We'll name you Fred. We really shouldn't let you go.
But he is too damn cute, so meet Sherman, our new frog. Let's hope he thrives with the adjustment.
That is definitely the biggest Cuban tree frog I have ever seen as well. That thing was a beast.
Hey, which dog pack is getting the carcass, and how should the Nebraska be split?
Well, it's good to learn something every day. I didn't know they liked berries. I had no idea whatsoever. Anyway, that's what I've got for you today. At the end of this video, I just wanted to give a special shout out to Heather, who had sent me a super thanks the other day. And I also wanted to thank everyone who subscribed so far. I would never ask for anything from any of you, but as this is a small channel and you know there's no producer, there's no funding, I'm just literally trying to make it interesting for you. I appreciate every kind of comment, like, subscribe that I get. It all makes a difference. Not financially always, but it makes a difference to me. Thank you very much.